Hey y'all, I'm Taryn. Welcome back to my channel. So today you can see I'm outside in my garden, and that's because I'm doing an updated garden tour for you. So we have a lot of changes going on in the garden, so I'm excited for you to see it, okay? But without further ado, let's get into it. Okay y'all, so let's start with this section. You can see this is my sweet potato bed, and it's looking absolutely gorgeous. The vines have gotten all over the bed, and now they're like coming down out of the bed here. And I really do love that. That lets me know that the sweet potatoes in here are going to be nice and big and luscious. I love it. Now, with that being said, it normally takes about 3 months for these sweet potatoes to get ready. I believe I planted them early May, so they're not even going to be close to being ready until August. I'm just going to let them sit here and do what they do. I'll know that they are ready when these vines start to kind of fall down and turn brownish, like a brown color, and die off. And at that point, I'll know that everything is ready. Yeah, so welcome to the cinder block raised bed garden area. So there's two sides of this area. I'm going to start with this side. You can see that this okra is taller than me. This okra is taller than me. It's actually amazing and very beautiful, but I will say that I have to be more mindful of harvesting the okras on time, and I don't think I've been bad with that. I always check this area every evening, and so I always have some okras on these two plants that need to be harvested. Now these two okras are different varieties. This variety is a red hill country okra variety, and it's very thick. You know, it's a little bit thicker, and at the very tips of the okra you can see some red on it. It's actually very beautiful, and the flower itself has like a little red in the middle of the flower. It's like the flower is the light greenish color and red in the middle. It's very pretty. I love it. Okay, and then this here okra is just the normal green variety okra, and it's very thin. I just wanted to try, you know, planting two different varieties so that when I cook them I can try and see, do I prefer one variety over the other. So that's why I did that. And then right here you can see all these beautiful zinnias. These are so beautiful, and I planted these zinnias myself, and I'm really proud of myself because they're just absolutely stunning. They're just starting to kind of die off, and I was thinking about possibly making a little bouquet out of them, but honestly I really do love coming out here and seeing my flowers in nature. You know, I like seeing them in their element, so I just let them stay out here, and they're beautiful. So now we're going to talk about this side of the cinder block raised bed. So this side is like so out of control, but in a good way, I guess. I only planted, I think, 2 tomato plants back here. I don't think I did any more than 2. I did a super sweet 100 cherry tomato, and then I did a sun gold cherry tomato. So somehow it's just like a little jungle back here, and I might have put more than 1 seed in each of the holes. That's probably it. So you probably have a bunch of tomato plants all in the same area. But either way, I'm very grateful for this because I'm going to have an abundance of cherry tomatoes on this side of the garden. And I think I already saw a few of them starting to turn ripe. It's been so hot out here that I think it's causing the cherry tomatoes to take a little bit longer to get ripe. But I think they're just starting to get ripe, and that's great. Then you can see right here I have some more yellow zinnias, and they're absolutely beautiful. These have to be some of my favorite flowers of all time. Other than sunflowers, I love these zinnias. So now we are in one of the raised beds that are dedicated to watermelon. So this bed is doing quite well, even though I kind of got worried for a second due to like some of the damage that was being done to the leaves. I think it's holding on well. I will say, if you watched my previous video, I did talk about how I was having some struggles with some of the watermelons. Basically what it was is we got way too much rain, and it caused one of the watermelons to split, and which it came off of this bed, and then it caused a couple of watermelons to get like blossom end rot. Now the blossom end rot could also be due to the fact that I hadn't fertilized my garden in a couple of weeks, and it probably needed some Tums or something. I bought some Tums, and so I'm gonna put that in the bed as well. But other than that, I think it's doing okay. I've been fertilizing the garden a lot more recently, so I'm happy about that. There are still a couple of beautiful watermelons on this bed, but I think we have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's about 10 watermelons on this bed, and then there's 1 butternut squash that I think is almost ready, y'all. I'm happy with what's going on in this bed. And there's even a small baby butternut squash that's trying to grow. So this is the second raised bed that's dedicated to watermelons. And this bed, I think, has about 8 really big, nope, I'm lying, 10, okay. Because I have to think about where they're all located. But there's about 10 in this bed, okay. I'm really happy about that. Some are bigger than others. There's actually 2 or 3 of them that I think might be ready. Or if they're not ready yet, I think they'll be ready soon, knock on wood. So I'm gonna have my dad come out and check that for us. As you can see, it's just like lots of vines everywhere. Cherry tomatoes everywhere. Again, I would never intentionally plant cherry tomatoes amongst my melons, okay? I did not intentionally do that. But once I saw that they were growing in this bed, they volunteered in this bed, I was like, we might as well keep them because I do love cherry tomatoes. Now, hindsight is 2020. I might not have made the best choice with that because it's really just taking over. But it's done now, right? So this is one of the areas of the bed that I know is about done for the season, at least when it comes to this here plant. This plant has a lot of dead limbs on it, as you can see, and it has some weeds growing like in the middle of it. So I think I might just cut off the dead limbs, even though there's 2 tomatoes hanging by a thread on this here limb. But I think I might cut off the dead limbs on this tree and see what it does. This plant here is looking really good, but I think that because it's gotten so hot recently that it's not going to actually produce as many tomatoes as it could. You can see I still have some flowers on here, but it's just so hot that right now there's nothing producing on it. I did get about 5 tomatoes off of that plant, but I think that might be it for this season. But we'll see. I mean, I'll leave it there until it just gets cold enough to where I need to take it up. So, and then you can see right here I have some basil. I started this basil myself. I think that might be holy basil right there. It took a long time for that to grow, but it's finally growing. And then this is just some regular basil that I got from the store. I still have it in the pot that it came in. It's just because I just haven't had the time to come out here and plant that in this actual raised bed. But I'll probably do that tonight. Hey y'all, so this is one of my favorite sections of the garden. This is my pepper bed. And so I'll definitely give you a close-up of the different peppers growing in this bed. There's only 1 pepper that needs to be taken off because it got eaten by some kind of bug. But other than that, they're all looking really good. I actually harvested a few of the peppers in this bed earlier this week. I got like 4 of them. They were so beautiful. And that really makes me happy because peppers, it can take a while to grow peppers. Sometimes peppers can be hard just to germinate the seeds. And then once the seeds germinate, it can take a while for the plant to get to a sizable size to where it can actually start producing fruit. So, but overall, it's going very well. I like the fact that I'm growing different colors of bell peppers. So far I've gotten an orange and a yellow, and it's just so beautiful. Now I will say that one right there, I thought that was going to be an actual big sweet pepper, but I think I planted some type of hot pepper. I didn't know that I had done that. I promise you, I thought that I had planted just a regular big sweet pepper, but those red peppers are very tiny, and I think I accidentally planted some like small jalapeno peppers or something. See, that's what happens when you don't label. One day I'll get myself together. And then if we take a quick look over there, you can see some of my beautiful flowers that's situated along this fence line. I am in love with that fence line area. Excuse the crickets. I think those are crickets. Excuse those. You know, I do live in the South. But These beautiful flowers are just stunning. So as you can see, these are different marigolds, different variety of marigolds that I started from seed, and they're finally starting to bloom. And then right there is another jalapeno pepper. That's actually a jalapeno pepper. I know that for a fact. Yeah, so this is my bean area. Now, I'm going to be honest about this area. When it comes to growing green beans, I've realized that I would rather grow my green beans in an actual raised bed, because the fact that I put them in these grow bags means that I have to constantly like bend down and look through there, and I don't like that. I don't like having to bend all the way down to the ground and look through there. Even though I do have the stool that my mom bought me for Christmas, which I love, but even then I still have to like sit kind of low on my stool and then like look through here. I would just prefer to grow green beans in a raised bed, and so that I can just go to the trellis on the raised bed and get the green beans. I don't have to constantly bend down and get them. So that's one thing that I've learned from this year. Now, my black-eyed peas are looking really, really good. They're looking beautiful. I don't think there's any on here that are actually ready to be harvested yet, but they are looking beautiful, so I'm happy about that. Now, I will say, I think there's some aphids that's trying to get to a few of them, but that's okay, because I'm going to get my organic soap spray and just spray it on there, and I think it'll be okay. But overall, I prefer to grow black-eyed peas in grow bags and grow green beans in raised beds, because it'll just be easier that way. Yeah, so this is my second section of tomatoes that I have in this garden. This is actually doing decent. Now you can see there's some dead limbs on this plant, but there's still some alive limbs on this plant. And there's still some greenery on the other plants, and there's even some tomatoes popping up on these two plants. Well, on this plant, I would say. So, I mean, I think I can still work with this area. I will cut off any of the dead limbs that's on these plants, especially this one. I'm going to cut off the dead limbs on this plant and a little bit on this one. And I'm just going to let it continue to grow. I think I can still get a couple of tomatoes off of these plants. So I'm going to just let them do what they do, okay? And I don't know what variety of tomatoes these are, because I didn't actually start these. These came from a family friend. But I do know that they're like a bigger Roma variety and or a smaller beefsteak variety. So I don't think I've given you a close-up of this section before, but let me go ahead and do that now. This is a section where I have some of my herbs. You can see that we still have weeds popping up through here. Even though we put down mulch and weed blocker, it's still popping through here. But that's okay, because I can still see my beautiful herbs. This right here is a lavender. The lavender is doing quite well, even though the actual flower has like disappeared from it. I can still smell it, and it is a beautiful lavender. I think that right now it's just gotten so hot that maybe it's just not producing flowers like it normally would, you know. But overall, it's gotten bigger, which I like, and it's still healthy. So I'm happy about that. These two right here are rosemary. This, again, has also gotten much bigger, and it's beautiful, and I'm very happy about it. That one right there is sage. Now, that sage isn't doing so well, as you can see. What happened was we got so much rain last week, and then we had like a couple of days of just completely dry weather. And I don't know if the rain, the torrential rain may have made it kind of die off, or if it was the fact that after that torrential rain for the couple of days, I didn't really water this area, because I thought that it would be okay since we had so much rain. I didn't come to this area for about a day or two, and so maybe it actually dried out. I'm just gonna cut that back and then like cut it down until there's really nothing left, and I'm gonna see if I can let it grow back. But if anyone has any tips on how to grow sage, let me know. Does it prefer dry heat, or does it prefer lots of moisture and rain? Let me know. So I'm gonna make this like super quick. This is the part of the garden that really is done. Like, this is really done. I can't even pretend it is finished. So this is my cucumber raised bed area. At the beginning of the season, it was doing really, really well. Like, it was thriving so amazingly, and I loved it so much. But then we just got so much rain, so many hot, humid days, and then it had some cucumber beetles that I think I got to and killed, but they had already done significant damage. You can see that some of the vines literally died off. Like, these are literally, these are dead, as well as the flowers. So now we have a raised bed area that's filled with a few struggling vines, and the rest of the vines died off. So I'm basically just gonna pull everything up this weekend. It's not all bad news, because before this happened, I did get a beautiful harvest. I got about 5 or 6 really big harvests of cucumbers from this bed alone, and I have 3 different plants in here, 3 different varieties, and I got just baskets full of cucumbers. So I still say that it was an abundant season for my cucumbers. I still would say that. So, and I even got a few cucumbers the other day, about 5 or 6, but you gotta know when to move on. And I would say, if I'm looking at this, it's probably time to move on from my cucumbers, and that's okay. So now we are in one of my favorite sections of this entire garden, my squash bed. Okay, so I think I mentioned this before. I'm growing 3 different varieties of squash in this bed. It seems like a lot, but I only planted 5 plants in here, I think. So I have 1 yellow squash plant, 1 butternut squash, and 2 zucchini squash. There we go. And everything has done well this season. I will say that I have seen more zucchini squash than yellow squash this season, which honestly I'm not even mad about, because last year I got more yellow squash than zucchini squash. So hey, that is what it is. And I've just started to get some butternut squash on this particular plant in this raised bed. I have a beautiful butternut squash growing right here. This one started so fast, I didn't even know that it was right here, and it went from being super small to super big in like a matter of days. I'm not even kidding, a matter of days. But overall, right now, the plants that are producing right now the most are my butternut squash and a couple of zucchini squash. I think it's just been so hot. I've said this numerous times in this video, but at some point when it gets this hot, then you really just aren't going to get as much fruit producing, because believe it or not, it can get too hot and too humid for your plants. At some point they can get like overwhelmed with this heat, and they won't really produce as many fruit. So right now I'm just being patient with everything, and I'm letting the few fruits that I do have on these plants produce, and I'm giving them time to produce. But I'm really happy with how this bed is doing so far. I'm really pleased with it. I even have a zucchini plant that's growing on the edge of the bed. I didn't even know that I had planted one all the way on the edge of the bed. I think that one is a zucchini plant as well. So I actually have 3 zucchini plants, 1 yellow squash plant, and 1 butternut squash plant. But I promise I did not mean to put that plant on the edge of the bed right there. See? I did not mean to do that. But hey, things happen. So this is going to be a super quick review of my fruit tree section. So I've been trying to grow these tropical plants for a while. Like, I have a couple of oranges, a couple of lemon trees. I've just realized that at this time of the year, we don't have a long enough growing season for us to actually have enough time for our tropical plants to produce fruit. It's almost August and they still haven't produced fruit. I'm not bringing these plants inside of my house. I do not like having real live plants in my house. I know that sounds crazy, but I prefer to keep them outside. We don't have enough time to grow tropical plants, and our winters aren't mild enough for these plants to last throughout the winter. Even when we put them in the greenhouse, they barely survived this past winter in the greenhouse because it got so cold. But I will say our native fruit trees have done pretty well. We have 2 peach trees, 1 apple tree, 1 plum clot tree. So these 2 peach trees gave us fruit this year, which was awesome. But my apple and my plum clot tree, they did not give us fruit this year, but we know why. It's nothing crazy. I said this in a previous video, but I'll say it again. We put our native trees in the greenhouse during the winter, and that wasn't good. We're lucky that our peach trees even gave us fruit since they were in the greenhouse all winter. What we should have done is leave our native fruit trees out in the garden so that they can get the cold hours that they need so that they could then produce in the spring summer, because in order for your native fruit trees to produce in the spring summer, you have to give them adequate cold hours. So we've learned our lesson, and this year we are keeping all of our native fruit trees outside for the winter. So this is my last tomato section of the garden, and as you can see, things have just, these plants have really thrived. They are huge, and I'm so proud of this section because in my very first garden tour of the season, I was so stressed out because these plants had gotten attacked by the white flies, and they had just looked like they were dying off. But my dad gave me the courage to just not give up, and we did our research, and I took off all the dead leaves. I sprayed every part of this plant with the organic pesticide soap spray, insecticide soap spray, and I was just made sure to try and cut back the limbs so that the plants weren't touching. And look at them now, they're beautiful. And I've gotten so many beautiful, huge tomatoes off of this plant. I am so very, very grateful for that. Aside from the squash and the watermelons, this is another favorite section of mine in this garden. I love it, and I'm just gonna let it continue to produce up until, honestly, up until we get our first frost. Whenever we get our first frost, whenever that will be, but at that point I'll take this whole thing down. But right now it's staying. If you enjoyed the garden tour, like I said, there were some major changes that are happening in the garden. So I might do another garden tour. I'm not sure. I think I will do like one more garden tour, but after that, I don't know if I will need to do another one because I'm not sure if there's a lot going on this late into the season, but we'll see. But before I go, don't forget, no matter what you're going through, no matter how stressful your day is, remember, just keep sowing, okay? Bye.